Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about the top 10 coolest and most innovative mobile computer designs that I've seen. And just to be clear here, I'm talking about mobile computers as in computers that can run desktop operating systems and that can fit in a travel bag or a briefcase or something like that. So, or a backpack. So no desktops here, but your own PCs, notebooks, some notebooks, laptops, obviously. Everything there counts. And no iPads or mobile phones because those don't run desktop operating systems. Alright, so let's go. Alright, at number 10, I have the Dell XPS. This is a laptop that came out back in 2010, back when the ultra thin craze was out. So this was right after the MacBook Air first came out, which was back in 2008. And all these other laptop companies were trying to make the thinnest laptop at the time. And Dell managed to release the Dell Adamo, the first one, which was already pretty thin. But then they upped it again with the Dell Adamo XPS, which has this kind of folding clamshell design where the display actually folds in with the keyboard. So there's like a lip, which has a heat sensitive strip at the top where you just slide with your finger and it pops out. And it acts as a storage for the keyboard as well. So that's how they managed to get the case so thin, only 10 millimeters thin. So that's really thin, even by today's standards. That's considered really thin, right? So the Dell Domo XPS is one of the most innovative computers I've seen and ranks number 10 on this list in 2010. Core 2 Duo processor with an SSD and 4 gigs of RAM, and yeah, it was just the thinnest computer on the market at the time. And even today, it would be considered really thin because 10 millimeters is like, that's pretty much unheard of. It's just one of the thinnest computers ever made, actually. So yeah, that's why it ranks number 10 here. All right, up next at the number 9 spot, I have a tie, and the reason why it's a tie is because both of these laptops, and I put laptops in quotes here because they're really gigantic desktop replacements that are almost as big as a desktop, but they're still mobile computers because you can still technically carry them on a plane. But yeah, they're just massive, massive, pushing the limits of what it means to be a mobile computer. So one is the Dell XPS M2010, which came out way back in 2006, 2007. This thing was gigantic. It was a 20.1 inch 1610 panel, 1680 by 1050, which is really high resolution at the time. I mean, this was 2006, running a Core Duo processor in an ATI Radeon X1800 card. Really expensive back then, over 2,000 bucks, I believe. And the weight was 9 kilograms, which is about 20 pounds. So again, this is one of those computers that are really pushing the limit of what it means to be a portable device. But still, props to Dell for putting this out. This is a really unique device. It really just looks like a desktop, but it folds into a briefcase-like thing that you can carry with you, like on a plane or somewhere. So technically, it is portable, but it unfolds into a full like desktop-like experience. So that's really, really cool. And then next I have the Acer Predator 21X, which is tied for the same spot at number 9 because it is like the Dell, way, way pushing the limits of what it means to be a mobile device, a mobile computer or a laptop. But 21-inch screen here, G-Sync, 120 hertz with a 2560 by 1080 panel. Again, this is probably, it's much more expensive than the Dell. It's at $9,000, so that's really, really expensive. Probably the most expensive device on this list, actually. But yeah, a massive 21-inch curved screen with a mechanical keyboard and a cooler at the front. It came out in 2017, which is just a couple of years ago, actually. So I'm going to have to put this along with the Dell at the number 9 spot just because both of these computers are really, really pushing the limits of what it means to be a laptop. And that's actually kind of innovative. So there's that. Alright, up next on this list at number 8 is a computer I consider to be pretty cool. It was just unveiled earlier this year at the 2019 CES, which is the Asus ROG Mothership. This is basically like one of those all-in-one computers that has, the monitor and the computer built into the same frame, except that this has a detachable keyboard, which you can use or can choose not to use. You can also choose to use your own keyboard. And it's portable, which means it has its own battery, so that kind of puts it into this category as a mobile computing device, even though this device is, again, just like the previous entry, kind of a desktop replacement. But I like this computer a lot. It's really powerful. Has a RTX 2080 inside of it, 144 hertz display, G-Sync obviously, and all the bells and whistles, a Core i9 processor. It's basically a desktop replacement and one of the most powerful gaming computers that you can get right now. So yeah, the Asus ROG Mothership I consider to be pretty innovative. The fact that they made a device and they knew that gamers usually don't use the keyboards that come built in with the laptops and stuff. So instead of just making another 17-inch gaming laptop, they chose to come out with this tablet form factor and then just let gamers choose to put their own keyboard and their own mouse, which is what most gamers do anyways, right? You use your own keyboard and mouse with the gaming laptop. So this saves some space, and I think it's a really cool design. Alright, up next at the number 7 spot, I have the Porsche design Book 1, which came out in 2017. This is a similar design to the Microsoft Surface Book, except I think it is a bit better. I know the Surface Book has better specs, but the Porsche design has the better design, I think. Mainly because there is no gap. When you fold the laptop down, there's no gap between the lid and the keyboard. Also, I think the little mechanical gears that are pretty cool on the hinge. And the laptop is actually a fully convertible laptop, so it can go the full 360 degrees, kind of like the Lenovo Yoga. So it can go that full 360 degrees and also detach just like the Microsoft Surface Book. Specs aren't as good. It's running an integrated GPU, but everything else, it's got the full SSD, Core i7 processor, and 16 gigs of RAM. So the other specs are pretty top-notch except for the GPU, like the Surface Book. But I still think the design is cool enough to put on my list right here because it combines the functionality of the Lenovo Yoga with the Microsoft Surface Book. Next, at number 6 on my list is the Acer Aspire R7, which is another convertible design. Now, during this time, 2012, 2013, 2014, a lot of notebook manufacturers were putting out really, really cool convertible designs. So a shout out to Dell XPS 12 with the rotating hinge, the Asus Taichi with the second display as the lid, and the Lenovo Yoga, obviously, and the Sony Veux Duo. But this design, the Acer Aspire R7, this is a really cool convertible design. The screen actually goes forward and extends out of the body, I guess, kind of like an easel. So this computer is meant mostly for artists and creative designers, but I think they did it in a really, really cool way. And the touchpad is actually above the keyboard, which is a really, really striking and unique design. And the display actually tilts backward as well, so you can use it for presentations and stuff. So I just think this is a really, really cool design and one of my favorite convertible designs. So that's why I have it here at number 6, the Acer Aspire R7. The specs are not too interesting. It's a 15-inch multi-touch display with an integrated GPU, rotating hard drive, and Core i5 processor. Haswell processor because this came out in 2013. Alright, up next at number 5, I have a tie because these two laptops I think are both really cool and they're both pretty similar. One is the Toshiba Libretto W700, which I actually have, which came out in 2010. And this is a dual screen netbook. It has netbook internals, so the specs aren't very good. But yeah, the coolest thing about it is that it's dual screen and it actually runs on Windows 7. So it's a custom version of Windows 7 that runs its own keyboard down on the bottom screen, but it doesn't have to be a keyboard. Like you can take it away and use it as another screen if you want. But by default, it is a touchscreen keyboard, much like the Lenovo Yoga Book, which came out just a few years ago. But the Toshiba Libretto did that first, way back in 2010, and has that keyboard design where you can switch between different kinds of keyboards. And the Acer Iconia 6120, very, very similar to the Toshiba Libretto, also came out around the same time, except it's a 14-inch screen instead of a 7-inch, so it's not a netbook, it is just a regular laptop size. But just like the Libretto, it has a touchscreen at the bottom, which can be a keyboard if you want it to, but you can also use it as a second display, just like with the Libretto. I think, and the internals are just nothing special. But I think both these computers are really cool because of the dual touchscreen design and the fact that they came out, way before any of the modern dual touchscreen notebooks came out. So that's why I have it at number 5. Next up at number 4, I have another computer that I actually own, which is the Sony Veux UX. Now this is an ultra mobile PC or UMPC, which was kind of a trend back in the mid-2000s. Some computer manufacturers want to make really, really tiny computers, like much tinier than a netbook. These actually fit in your pocket, and the Sony Veux UX was probably the best one out of these. Not only did it have the best processor out of the ones that came out at the time with a Core Solo processor, like the Okio Model 2 only had a really slow VSC7M, and the other ones like the Samsung Q1, the HTC Shift, the Vulkan Flipstart, they're not really comparable to the Sony Veux UX. I think this was the best UMPC design, and I really wish that Sony could have made a successor to this design. But it is what it is. It came out way back in 2006, and even today, it's going to turn heads. Like if you bring out a computer like this today, it's still going to turn heads. So yeah, that just shows you how innovative this computer was. The specs are, I mean, it's one of the first computers to have an SSD, I believe, and a fingerprint reader, which was not something that would become common on computers until over a decade later, I think. So props to Sony. The Sony Veux UX is number 4 on my list of the most innovative mobile computer designs. Number 3 on my list is the Razer Edge Pro, which came out in 2013. And this was a really cool design because it was a gaming tablet. So it was a tablet running Windows 8 at the time, and it slots into this controller station, this docking controller that turns it into a handheld gaming console. And that was really cool, and it's still really cool at the time to think that you can play Windows games on the go, right? I mean, now we have the Nintendo Switch, which plays console games, but think about playing your PC games on the go, right? And I really wish that Razer would give this kind of design another look, but it was really cool for the time, and it's still really cool today. Just the thought of being able to play your Windows games and your Steam games wherever you go is a really cool thought. And now we have devices like the GPD Win 2 that could kind of do that. But Razer thought of this design first, and they actually thought about this design back in 2011 with the Razer Switchblade, but that was kind of just a prototype concept thing. They actually released it in 2013 with Project Fiora, which turned into the Razer Edge. It's a really, really cool idea. I just think it was really ahead of its time because at the time in 2013, Haswell processors hasn't come out yet, so the battery life on these were pretty bad. But I think if Razer made one today using modern specs and modern GPUs, it could be pretty good. And this was running NVIDIA 640M LE at the time, so not very powerful now. But these days, you could probably fit an MX250 or something inside of it, but you know that's still way more powerful than what the Razer Edge Pro had. So props to Razer for this cool design. Razer Edge Pro at number 3. Alright, at number 2, I actually want to put the Intel Honeycomb Glacier prototype that they displayed at the Computex just recently, but I know this is just a prototype, it's a concept, it hasn't actually come out yet. I really like the dual screen design of this prototype, but since we're not sure whether Intel is actually going to production with this design or not, or who's actually going to be making them, I think I'll go with the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo, which also came out on Computex, except Asus is actually going to make this computer. Now, this is a really cool computer because it is also a dual screen design. It's not quite as cool as the Intel Honeycomb Glacier, but it is still a really, really cool design nonetheless. You can use the second screen. It's you know, way bigger than the MacBook Touch Bar. It's a fully fledged 4K screen that you can multitask with. You can put anything down at the bottom, right? It doesn't have to be some special operating system, doesn't have to be some special screen you have to put there. You can put any application down there, and the main display is also a 4K screen, and it's an OLED screen. And this computer also runs an RTX 2060 with a Core i9 processor. So the fact that it's basically a high-end gaming laptop with dual screens, and it also has a mechanical keyboard and touchpad that can also become a numpad. Like, there's just so many innovative things about this design. So props to Asus for making this computer. I think it's coming out later this year, the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo. I'm really looking forward to it. This is number 2 on my most innovative designs list. Okay, number 1 on my list is the Razer Project Valerie. Well, if they actually made it, of course. But since Razer didn't actually make this computer, it's only a prototype, and then it got stolen at CES 2017. I'm going to have to give the number 1 spot to a computer that I actually own, which is the Onkyo DX. Now, a lot of people don't know that this computer even exists, but the Onkyo DX is a super rare netbook that has 2 screens built into it. one screen folds out from the other one. So basically it's equivalent to when you're sitting at your desk and you have a second monitor beside you, right? So you can increase your productivity. And the Onkyo DX is also a convertible, so you can actually rotate the screen as well and show off both of those screens to other people if you want. So this is a really cool design. I don't know why no one else has made this design. This computer came out way back in 2010, and we have much better technologies now, and I'm not sure why no one's making this kind of design, but this computer exists, and I really think it is the coolest design, and I really wish that more computer manufacturers would make this kind of design. I mean, the internals are nothing special. They're just typical netbook internals, but I have no idea why no other computer maker has done this. Like, to me, having this design makes much more sense than having that dual touchscreen design where you have another screen on top of the keyboard, because you have to shift your focus vertically instead of horizontally, which to me is a bit unnatural, because you're trying to look at one screen and then you have to look down and then look up again. So to me that feels unnatural. To me it feels better just to have another screen at the side so you can shift your focus horizontally instead, which I think makes more sense. But for some reason no one else has ever made this design except for Kojinsha, which is another Japanese maker that no one else has heard of. I think the Onkyo DX is actually based on it, but anyways, this is my pick for number one, the most coolest and innovative mobile computer design from 2010 from Onkyo, who is an audio equipment manufacturer, so you never would think that they would come up with such an innovative and cool design. And I know that Lenovo actually experimented with a design similar to this with their ThinkPad W700 DS, I believe. It was a 17-inch notebook that had a smaller screen that slid out from the side, but it's not exactly the same as this design. And of course, Razer's Project Valerie, which never actually came out. I hope you enjoyed this rundown of the coolest computer designs, mobile computer designs that I've seen. And let me know if I missed any cool computers. Let me know what kind of feedback you have on my list, if you agree with it or not. And thanks for watching.